Hi, friends, and welcome to Season 3 of the School Librarian Learning Network podcast. I'm Steve Tatro, often known as Dr. T Loves Books, and I love talking about all things related to school libraries. I'm an old dog who's always trying to learn new tricks. That's why in each episode of the SLLN podcast, I'll chat with a school librarian about a lesson, program, or activity they love. Hopefully, this can be a place for school librarians to get ideas and find new ways to engage with their students and staff. Speaking of which, I'd love to hear about what you and your friends are doing in your school library. Email me at drtlovesbooks@gmail.com. That's drtlovesbooks@gmail.com to tell me about what you're doing, offer feedback about the SLLN podcast, or to request a podcast sticker. As Amy Herman likes to say, being a guest on a podcast is a great way to show your admins you are engaged in meaningful professional development and leadership in the profession. So drop me a line and let's chat. That being said, the opinions and ideas shared in this podcast by myself and my guests are our own and do not reflect those of our school districts. I just like to geek out about school libraries. So without further ado, let's get to this week's episode. Hey everybody, we're back. I am back with a friend that I have not talked to here in a while, although we talk back behind the scenes quite a bit. And so I'm glad that we're getting a chance to connect some more on the show here. But I am jumping ahead because I have got the awesome Wendy Garland here. Wendy, thank you so much for coming back. I'm very excited to talk to you about this. Just so folks can refresh their memories, because you were here back in episode 31, which seems like yesterday, but also was a long time ago. So you were talking about origami in the library back then, but where are you at now? What do you do?
Yeah, so I'm Wendy Garland, and I am a school librarian for grades pre-K to 5 in the Dedham Public Schools, which is right outside of Boston.
Awesomeness. And one of the things that I don't know if people know, but you and I also worked together on a committee for AASL, and we were on the the member engagement committee as members. And then we eventually became the co-chairs of that committee. And I just want to take a second to talk about that because you and I really were able to, we knew of each other, but I don't feel like we knew each other super well before we started co-chairing together. And it was such a wonderful experience to get to co-chair with you. And not just because of the committee, but because I got to work with you and the other members in such a much more direct way than I feel like I've gotten to work with some folks at ASL before. And so I absolutely love that experience. And I was just kind of curious if you wanted to share any thoughts or ideas, because I feel like it's such a great opportunity that people don't often know about, that they can take part in these committees. So any thoughts, ideas, things you might want to let people know about being on a committee or being a chair for committee?
So I will admit that I was reluctant to do that for quite some time because I just felt like I had such imposter syndrome. Like, well, I have to be at a certain level of librarianship before I'm allowed to do that. Like, yes. I shouldn't serve on a committee because I don't know enough.
Mm-hmm.
And what I discovered by being on the committee was by the time I got on it and I saw what an array of lovely people, we had people just entering the field. Mm-hmm. We had people who had been in the field for decades. I realized how wrong I was, that you don't have to have arrived to, I was under the incorrect assumption that I had to be at a certain level in my librarying to do that, which was not correct. I by the time I did and threw my name in the hat, I just said, well, I just want to be involved in some way, shape, or form. And that was the best thing I could have done, because it really let me take on as much or as little as I wanted and was able. So even within our committee, right, the committee would divide into okay, these are the things that we need to work on. Mm-hmm. And so, of course, I would volunteer for the ones that I felt more comfortable in. Mm-hmm. So even within the committee, we divided up in terms of, hey, you're really strong in that. Why don't you take on that? I'm going to go over here with these folks and use my strengths over here. So it was a really great learning opportunity to sit on the committee and serve. And so, I was very glad that I finally got over that idea that I had in my head that was not correct.
Yeah, no, I'm totally there with you. I had the exact same experience. Like when I was first kind of poking around at that, I was like, I don't know anything. Why would they want me on this? But just like you said, throwing your hat in the ring and getting pulled into some of these committees has been such an eye-opening experience to see, like you said, not just the various experience levels people have, but like just getting to know what's going on in other places and other states and seeing like, oh yeah, they're going through some similar stuff, or they've got something very different going on over there. That's probably going to come our way. I would like to be aware of that. And getting to bounce ideas off of people that I wouldn't normally get to throw ideas around with was awesome. And sort of just seeing how all of the behind the scenes stuff works a little bit was also really interesting and eye opening to me. So that was just being on the committee itself was so wonderful. And then when we got to co-chair, that was so great because although we had known each other on the committee, now we really got to know each other super well. And I feel like we were able to complement each other. I feel like we complement each other really well as co-chairs of member engagement because we both had a couple of very clear, strong ideas of where we thought things should go that I think lined up really well. And then we also both had sort of our particular areas of expertise that we were able to sort of branch into. So I think we were able to get a lot done on that committee. And that was really gratifying to be able to say, yeah, not only do I know what's going on, but we were able to sort of give some shape to some programs, I think, that were really great. And some of them are still going, which I love. So it was such a wonderful opportunity. And I hope that people will kind of hear this and go, okay, maybe that is something I should check out because I found it incredibly valuable to myself and my professional understanding. And not just, yes, it was helpful to the organization, which also is great. Like we want ASL to be strong. We want it to have good, engaged members. But also I just learned so much from connecting with all these different kinds of people and seeing different kinds of stuff going on. So yeah, I thought it was a wonderful experience. I hope others will take advantage of it too. So
absolutely.
Just wanted to go on that little tangent for a minute and just kind of get that out there. So folks, if you haven't, think about it, see what you can get into. There's so many different committees you can take part in, but that's not what we're actually here for today. So we're going to take a little bit of a detour here and we're going to come back around and talk about your Students Rebuild project, which I have seen you posting about. You've posted a lot about it on Bluesky and I love it. And I'm just sort of curious, like, where did the idea for this come from in the first place?
So Students Rebuild. So let me back up and explain first what Students Rebuild is. So it's a global program. And what it does is it tries to connect young people to world issues. So global issues, things that are happening. And then what happens is the really impressive piece of this is so whatever the issue is of the year, which they will identify, the goal is to have youth, and youth meaning very, very young through 12th grade, engage in the issue and then create or do something. So becoming activists or artivists, however you want to call it, and then their work for the things that you can document and send in. There are global partners who will donate $5 per piece of work. So not only are you learning about a global concern, a global issue, but the work that your students do has direct impact.
That's
and that was the
amazing.
thing that really got my attention. And I was trying to, when I knew we were going to have this conversation, I had to really rewind because I'm like, yeah, how on earth did this all come about? But the first project that I did with Students Rebuild was in 2024 when we did the Extraordinary Earth Project. And I was thinking back to how I even became aware of that. And I am thinking, not 100%, but I am pretty sure that was something that I found on Twitter. Probably through one of the, many like groups that I followed or hashtags or some librarian. And I saw it and I went, wow, okay, well, that's interesting. Back in 2024, I did it for the first time. And with my students, we raised over $3,000 for nonprofits to help the earth. And I thought, how cool is that? That not only are we going to read some books, we're going to do some activities, we're going to create something. But then at the end of the day, I get to say to my students, like, look what you did.
Yeah.
You are supporting. You not only are you learning about it, asking questions about it, teaching others about it, but you also raised over $3,000 for some nonprofits. So it all started, I think, from Twitter back in day. That was a couple years ago.
Man, and what I love is that it is So it does cross all grade levels. Like, because when I think about you working with K-5 population, like those are pretty little kids. Like those are not, even my middle schoolers, I think, have some difficulty connecting themselves to their civic understandings and their connections to the town around them and the world around them. And so I love that this is really bringing that opportunity down to all levels and making it something that all students can take part in. And I hadn't realized there's also a donation component that the students are bringing in money for these causes as well. That's amazing.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes, and that's what really got my attention because in wanting to kind of bring that I'm really interested in teaching our kids that we have the power to change things in our lives, but I'm only going so far if we are reading books about it and we're talking about it and we're doing activities about it. I really wanted to go and do the whole route
Yeah.
and actually show them, look, we actually did all of those things. And here is the monetary, like we didn't have a bake sale and generate, $75 for this. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we raised over $3,000 and it was just because of their work. Their work did that.
That's incredible.
We didn't have to go out and, add it on to a concert or, have a table at an event. We
Yeah.
just did the work. We did the thinking and we were activists. We were
Hmm.
artivists and they remember it. That's what's also when I talked about it this year, I did not do it in 2025. When I talked about it again in 2026 to those students who were in my building 2 years ago, and I said, well, do you remember when we did the extraordinary earth and I showed them some of the projects and I mean, so cool. And I mean, they were like, yeah, I made a, and they're, talking about what they made and what they did. So it really was something that stuck with them.
That's amazing. Huh. And so this is an organization that exists, the Students Rebuild organization. And so do you, as the person who's going to implement this, go to their website and sort of see like, here is, you said there's a topic a year, like a different focus each year?
Yes. So I went in and I registered our school and I said, these are the students we have. And since then, I'm now at a second school. So this year I even did a modified version for my pre K and K students
Oh,
who
wow.
are in a. So I took what we're going to talk about and I just changed it and modified it for our 3, 4, and 5 year olds. But even they participated in this and they raised money.
Huh.
And
That's
they did
amazing.
Students Rebuild as well. So we did this, and this was the first year that because this went so well 2 years ago, I brought it to my colleagues, and we did it in our district in all schools pre-K to 5 this year. So 2 years ago, it was just in my school. This year, it happened in all of our pre-K to 5 schools,
That's
which was
amazing.
really
Wow.
exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome when you can take something that is working and other people see the value in it. That's always such a nice recognition of, oh, yeah, I am doing a thing that is worth doing because other people are willing to jump on board too. So,
Right.
oh, that's great. So,
Mhm.
okay, I'm a student and I walk into the library. What is going to be like? How is this going to unroll in front of me? What am I going to see?
So this year's theme was Unique and United.
Okay.
So that really spoke to my interests also in so I am interested in activism. I'm also interested in the idea of identity. So when I heard that it was unique and united, the idea being we're celebrating that we are all unique, but we're also celebrating that on the same hand, though, we are all united in different ways. So I kicked off the whole project with a read aloud.
Okay.
And I believe, Steve, you are going to have this in the show notes, right? I wrote a blog about
Yes.
this.
Yep.
So everything that I talk about is in the blog where there are links there. There are anything that I made is in there. You're welcome to take a look at all of that. But we start with a read aloud. My younger students read Elmer by David McKee, The Elephant, and my older students, grades 3 through 5, read What I Am. And we were just thinking about how we are all unique. We turned that project into a self portrait. Now, here was my first surprise. So, we read this book about how we're all different, how we're all special. I say, and you are now going to create a self portrait. I gave them two options. I gave them a Lego like a picture and colored pencils. They could draw themselves as a Lego minifigure, or they could go and grab, I had base plates, small base plates where they could build themselves out of Legos. So in my head, the Legos were going to overwhelmingly be the preferred choice.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, was I wrong. So there was surprise number one. I had bought all these Lego base plates, Dollar Tree. They were $1.25. These little like 5x5s. I had different colors. I was all so excited for massive amounts of children to be creating themselves out of Legos. And they went for the paper. So, okay. But we did have, in every class, I did have some Lego builders. So that was the first project. And then what was really fun was because I wanted this to be visual, I took pictures of every single self-portrait,
Nice.
and I used Google Collage, and I put all 325 self-portraits into collage mode, and I made two bulletin boards of them. So
Oh,
our
that's
whole
awesome.
school was represented on the bulletin boards in the library in in some form of Lego format, whether it was physically built and I took a picture of it, or it was their drawing of their Lego figures. So that was our first step to
That's
identify
awesome.
I am special, I am unique, and we had a visual for that. So that was the first part. That was a blast.
Yeah.
Next, I leaned on Students Rebuild. They had a number of resources. So you go there, and this year I went and I pretty much took what they had and I went with it. I'm one
Okay.
of those people who usually I'll like read somebody's idea and be like, okay, I like it. I'm going to borrow this piece and go my
Mm-hmm.
own way.
Yeah.
This year, their material was so strong that and I say we because I built this with my colleagues, Ingrid Mayasi and Katie DeWitt. We sat down and said, this is really powerful. We want to do this project. So the next piece started with there's an amazing video from Adidas about how folks with Down syndrome, their feet are built differently,
Hmm.
and wearing a traditional sneaker can be very painful. So it's talking about these athletes who would want to run and would have these blisters and have awful foot pain, and
Hmm.
how Adidas went and they created these adaptive sneakers for folks with different kinds of feet. So my kids were totally engrossed in this video,
Yeah.
right? And they really took that to heart. We watched this video and we discussed, like said, has anybody had anything uncomfortable that you've ever worn? Like, oh, it itches or it's poking you here or it doesn't feel quite right there. Your shoes are too tight. We talked about that and we said, okay, so we're going to design something that is just right. But their task was to design a sneaker or a shoe for a partner. Now they weren't going to design, we already did the makery part of it. They were going to design it on paper. But I said, in order for you to design a shoe, you need to get to know that person really well.
Mm.
So this led us up to an interview. I gave them a partner and they had to sit down with their partner and they had a series of questions that they asked the partner. So it was them this was my other piece of it. We want to know each other. We want to get to know someone else better. So they sat down in conversation, asked them a number of questions in preparation for the shoemaking. So
Huh.
that was another day. Watched the video, had an interview, got to know their person.
I love that.
Then it was time to
Anytime
make
we
shoe.
can, yeah, before we even get to the shoe, like I love just even when we get the students to have those conversations with each other about their, just interviewing each other, learning about each other. A lot of times I feel like our students don't know each other super well. Like they may be in the same classes, but in class, you don't often get an opportunity to just be yourself and talk about yourself. Like you're talking about the subject or answering the questions that are asked. And so giving them that time to interact with each other and get to know each other, I think that's so valuable. And I love that it's in service of this awesome project that's going to both look at how is this person different than me, but also how are they like me? Because that should be undergirding everything that we're doing. That idea that we are all unique, but also we are not all so unique that we cannot get along and be part of the same community and be part of the same solutions to things. So this is great. Sorry. I love that element. That's so wonderful. And I'm looking at your blog post and I'm looking at the students who are having these conversations. You've got a picture of a couple of them kind of working together and discussing. And it's melting my heart to see these little kids kind of just hanging out and talking to each other. It's so cool. So sorry.
but along those lines, what blew my mind were that the first graders were able to do this and they loved it. But my 5th graders were really invested because
Hmm.
I was a bit worried about this, and then at times and I picked their partners, and I was very intentional with how I did that, and I
Hmm.
wasn't sure that was a smart idea. I wasn't sure how it was gonna go because there were some folks who landed together that were kind of like, "Are you serious?" And I had reasons for that, and they went with it, and it was really a beautiful thing, but I wanted them talking more. That's another focus that I've had is just I want my students speaking more,
Hmm.
and giving them that time with each other was really special. But the piece that blew me away, which again, this project was full of like, "Oh, wow, I had no idea." It was full of surprises for me every step of the way. I also had a lot of reservations about the creating of the shoe part.
Okay.
So I put out some different options. You could do a high top, you could do a low top. I also put out Crocs,
Okay.
right? Because not everybody wants a sneaker, not everybody wants a Croc, so you had options. You could go pick. So now the next class, they come in, they get their interview back, what they wrote down. They could go pick the shoe, and then there are a bunch of supplies on the table, some simple things, but I had some, stickers and some puffy stickers and different kinds of markers. I even put some yarn out there, some real basic makery things.
Hmm.
And I kind of anticipated they're going to like take 5-10 minutes and be done with this because I think if they were making their own shoe, they might be more invested. That
Okay.
was what I
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah.
Well, I was terribly wrong. The
Okay.
first thing that I discovered was I did not leave nearly enough time for this. They had 20 to 25 minutes,
Mm.
and I had planned lots of things for my early finishers because I figured this is going to be done and over with within 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, 25 minutes in, I have like 2 kids who are done and everyone else is still working. And I'm telling
Huh.
them that it's time to wrap it up. And I was like, wow, I was so wrong. This project, they actually needed two classes to finish it. They definitely needed a second one because what I discovered was where I thought like they would probably be more interested in designing their own shoe.
Mm.
Absolutely not. They would be designing and then I would watch. They're like it would be like me being like, "Wait, Steve, hold on. I got to stop here. Do you like the orange or the blue better? You told
Oh.
me that you liked the orange and blue, but, like, which one do you like more? Because I can do a like, they were, like, double checking with each other, and then they're like, "So I have a sticker because I know you said you really liked pigs, but, like, what about this or that?" Like, they wanted to make sure they got it right, and
Oh, wow.
I did not see that coming.
That's
The
awesome.
care the care they took with each other, so I ended up having to build another week into my unit, which was not a problem because they were so invested. So
Yeah.
the second week they came back and we simply said, "Hey, yeah, you're gonna finish up what you're doing." And so I
Huh.
needed an extra week. Oops, that is the best kind of oops we could have.
Yeah.
At which point, as I will say, the best thing I also had was now I had 325 of these things that had to get put on the walls of the library because Envision a
Mhm.
Gallery, I turned our space. Now, mind you, the bulletin boards already have the self portraits, but I
Mhm.
wanted the shoes around. So my team of volunteers, my adult parent volunteers, they hung all these things up.
Hmm.
This was a work of heart for sure. They hung all these up into a gallery, and then so everything's now hanging up, and before we went on a gallery walk, I read the book I Am We, a book of community by Susan Verde, illustrated by Peter Reynolds. So we read the book, which really tied it all back into, our theme, and I sent them off throughout the gallery to go look and to go find, of course, they wanted to find their shoe, the one that
Right.
they made, the one that was made for them. But it was beautiful. They came back and I sent them off with these, well, my sentence frames. I I started with some and they just were too specific. I ended up realizing that I wanted to have them really think through what they were looking at.
Okay.
I ended up just making it really simple and said, just go out and what do you notice? And then finish this sentence like, I like how, and had them go out into the gallery and come back and report. So that was really special. They could not wait to go and see it. And then they're like, I saw my neighbors and I saw my friend from the bus. And it was beautiful because there were 325 of them hanging. So
Incredible.
it was
Wow.
beautiful.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And I love too, like the project itself is great and what the students are doing is awesome. But I also love how this is really reinforcing the idea of the library as that third space in the school where they are getting to have those personal one-on-one conversations that they might not get a chance to have in other locations in the school because of just the way that the classrooms are structured and the way the lunchroom is unstructured. Like this is that sort of in-between space where they've got a mission, but the mission is get to know the people around you and making the library a place where people get to know each other. So incredibly valuable and important. Like, yes, our books do that, but also the community of people that read those books is around us. And so I love that this is sort of adding that extra layer to that element of the school library. So triple kudos to you for picking not only an awesome program that the students are clearly engaged by, but also adding that extra experience to their day and giving them that further grounding in their school community. So great. Boy.
But it
This
was
is
a way
just
for us to build community, right? And by doing so in a couple of ways, just that, right? Like I really got to know one person, maybe in a way, and I did try to partner them not with their best friend,
mm-hmm,
but by someone who I knew, like, this isn't someone you're super close with.
mm-hmm.
And that's my point. I want you to go and learn a little bit about that person.
Yeah.
So it was them celebrating community in that way. But then because we all did it, we were able to look at this across the entire school.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, right? And I also wanted to push those boundaries of, okay, well, the library is a place where we read. Yes, there were books involved, but we create,
Mm-hmm.
we build,
Mm-hmm.
and we also, and they were like, wait a minute, this kind of feels like art. And I'm like, you're right. Look at that.
Yeah.
So we were crossing the curriculum and the talking. I wanted them talking with each other.
Yeah.
And I wanted them to understand the last piece of it, right? And taking of the pictures and uploading them and, knowing that we contributed, that we were also activists. We raised money to support others doing good work.
That's
So,
awesome.
in those ways, I felt like I was trying to push the boundaries of what our library is and what it can be.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, so I've got a couple of logistical questions. So
Mhm.
the Students Rebuild organization had some of these materials like ready for you to just take and go. But it sounded like you were also doing some selecting of what you were going to include or introduce with those. So like did the books that you did with them, those were your choices or those were suggestions that came from Students Rebuild?
No, those were my choices. And in
Okay.
fact, the identity ones at the bottom of the blog post too, there's a link to an article that I wrote with Laura Delia about identity for the diverse bookfinder because
Mm,
that's near and dear to my heart and we've done a lot of work on identity. So I was able to pull in my interests and my passions there and pull in thinking about identity, what would be a good, this was another way that I took those lessons
mm-hmm.
and integrated them into this unit.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I pulled those books from that post and my thinking that I do, because there are a lot of them that I have and would use through the years, but
Uh-huh.
so I pulled that from there. And then I just thought the Susan Verde book was a great, it pulled it together. And conveniently, Peter Reynolds, who illustrated it, is
Mm.
also a resident of the town where we live.
Oh,
So anytime I can pull a Peter Reynolds book, I get, oh, he's my neighbor. Oh, he signed my book. I saw him at the Blue Bunny, which is his bookstore. So anytime, I mean, he does beautiful work and my students really connect with it. So the way that I was able to pull him into the project was really fun.
that's awesome. Oh man, that's such a wonderful resource to have that you've got an author right there to kind of draw on and point to. Boy.
Absolutely.
And then I would assume also that you put together the Lego figure images that the students were going to color or build on, and the same thing for the shoes, like that you had found those pieces of art to bring in that the students were then going to adjust to make personalized?
So I will say that the Lego minifig picture, my colleague Katie DeWitt, she provided that one. So she
I
had
love that.
that template and shared it with us.
It's so
And
great.
then the shoes, yeah, I had done some searching high and low for outlines. I wanted something big that would
Hmm.
fill up an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper.
Hmm.
And I had just done I did not create, none of those were originals. Those came from elsewhere, but hey, us librarians, we can find things, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Man,
I
this
found
is
those
such
shoe
a
images and used those.
I love this. And it's the minifigs for some reason. There's something about the minifigs that's just really just fascinating me. Like it's something that I should have thought of a long time ago and I didn't. But like they are such a great template for our students to be able to map themselves onto and customize. And because I mean they are very, they're generically human and you can modify them as necessary to make them fit what you want to fit. And the pictures that are here are so great. Like I love that the students are picking different skin tones and different hair types and different, like just with pencils, they're coloring in, the stuff that works for them. I love that. Boy.
And I told them to make it with something that really spoke to them. So you see, like on this blog post, we've got a boy with a soccer ball on his shirt and by his feet. So he clearly likes soccer. The girl next to him looks like she's wearing point shoes and a
Mm,
bun on her head. I believe we have
mm-hmm.
a dancer. And then I had ones that had like flags of countries and I had, like music around their heads. And these were I had to pick only four and it was very difficult to
I
pick
bet.
four that would represent like the kind of work that I saw from them. But it was very well thought out for the most
Mm.
part.
I used to do a flag lesson with my students and we talk about symbolism in my middle school. We were doing I forget, Jekyll and Hyde, and we were talking about the symbolism in that. And so we did symbolic doors that reflect in the book, but then we also did symbolic flags of ourselves at the beginning of the school year. And I like this even better than a flag because it gives you the sort of the body space to do the thing that's going to represent you, as well as thinking about like, what are the features, what are the elements of ourselves that we want to sort of project for others to see, or what are the parts that we think we want people to notice about us. And so this is, oh boy, you've got my brain spinning and spinning. I love it. This is so great.
I think also because it takes the pressure off you. Like if you were not an artist like myself, I would not sit down with a piece of white paper and create myself.
Mm-hmm.
But if you give me this as a basis,
Mm-hmm.
I can work with this.
Yeah.
And it's also a Lego minifig. Like it's not supposed to be realistic, so I'm not going to get hung up on, but that really doesn't look like me because it's a Lego minifig. That body does not look like my body anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt like it gave me a little bit of liberty and artistic license.
Yeah.
And that that may be why I was so wrong in thinking that, oh, they're all going to build with the Legos. No, no, the majority, 75% of the kids wanted to draw themselves.
Well, and that's another thing I love about this is it is so open to whatever skill level, whatever. I mean, this is something that even ELL students are going to be able to do because it's not overly reliant on writing words, on understanding language. I mean, yes, the conversation parts, but you could also always pair up your ELL students who speak similar languages. You don't necessarily have to
Mhm.
have your conversation in English to have a conversation. And there's so many ways that this could be differentiated and adapted without really having to do hardly anything because it's really just building on very straightforward basic skills. And yet it's so open to their expression. It's so great. Boy, I
And
love it.
that's what I did with the conversations. The conversations, I made sure that, and I gave the same thing to the first graders through the fifth graders, but they were sentences with icons. And I did pair students of the same languages. So, like, they could, and I said, write it in whatever language you want.
Mm-hmm.
You do not need to write it down in English. This is for you to have so you know what to use for their shoe.
Mm-hmm.
but everything was done in visuals. So we reviewed these and I, walked around to help students. But it was very clear through like little icons what you were asking them. So yeah, I felt like this was a really great way just to get students talking because I want them talking to one another more and
Yeah.
interacting with each other.
Absolutely, 100%. And you got feedback from your students from 2 years ago in talking about what they remembered and what they recalled, and they
Mhm,
clearly were very excited and interested in that, which is awesome. I'm kinda
mhm.
curious, did you get any were any of the teachers or administrators or supervisors, did anybody else, like, see what the students were doing and have thoughts, ideas? Did you get any feedback from other arenas?
Oh, I did. Our principal this was fun. Our principal walked in one day while they were creating the shoes, and she was like, "What is going on here?" And I was curious to hear where she was going with this, but of all crazy things, she just had a her grandson had just visited Italy and had come home and had an artist draw a piece of the city where he had been on his shoes. There's like a local artist who does artwork on shoes.
Huh,
And then that became like she took a picture of it, she sent it to me. So then I put it up the following week and I had, explained like, hey, we just made a connection because she thought this was fantastic that they were expressing themselves. She loved the project. But then I
yeah,
shared the sneakers of her grandson with the whole
huh,
school. And so it just started this really great conversation. So yeah, the administration was aware of this and I made sure that it made the parent newsletter
mhm.
as we were doing it and then as we, donated our contributions.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm kind of curious too, like when your parent volunteers were helping you organize your gallery walk for the shoes, did they have
Mhm.
any feedback? Did they have any thoughts that they were sharing with you? They, not that they had to
They
necessarily, but I'm sure.
They were following the journey because I had reservations about different parts of this, right? Like, they were cleaning up all the stickers and the stuff, they were helping me keep all this stuff organized,
Hmm.
and, because I was just like, "I don't know, this could turn into a real hot mess. This could go south really quickly," and I was blown away at how invested the kids were, and I think they were too.
Yeah.
'Cause they were following my train of thought, which was, "Oh my god, can you believe that? She put out all these stickers and this yarn, and look at the supplies. This is gonna be a disaster. Look at all the scissors and the glue. Oh god, she pulled out the glue." Right? Like, and I'm like, "Yep,
Uh,
all the things are out here, and we gotta keep them organized and, stocked for the next group that comes in." And so they were kinda watching this going, "Oh boy." And yeah, I think it blew everyone away.
yeah.
Probably me the most because I wasn't sure how this was gonna go.
Well, and that's one of the things I love when we try out new things is that you don't know how it's going to go. And there's, even in our failures, we are learning things. And when it doesn't fail, when it works out the way we expect it to, that's great. When it goes even better than we planned, that's just such an amazing moment. So I love that that you were blown away and that the results went even beyond what you were hoping for, which is just, I think that's such a great moment. And in a way, I think that speaks to how you are running the library, that the students were willing to buy into this, that they were willing to, follow your lead and go along with it. Cause it wouldn't take too many kids to kind of throw some rotten apples into this barrel and cause some issues with this, but they were buying in and they were going with it. And I love that. And that's, I think, certainly a testament to your students, but also a testament to you that they are willing to buy in and trust you with that. So kudos to you on building that kind of a space that the students are going to feel that way. I'm kind of curious if anybody's going to try this out for the first time,
Mm.
what are some things they might want to have in mind as they're getting ready to dive in?
So here's a little plug for Students Rebuild. This year, they've already announced this coming year's theme, which is protecting the planet.
Okay.
And the resources aren't up yet, but they will be soon. They're doing something new. I guess you're going to be able to pick whether you want the land, the air, or the sea.
Hmm.
And they're breaking it down into some more specific things. So
Okay.
I'm really excited. I don't know where I'm going with this yet. I'm
Mm-hmm.
kind of reading some things, but my suggestion would be because this is really big and this took weeks and weeks, and I had already done it once. So I felt comfortable in this space.
Mm-hmm.
For anyone doing it for the first time, it does not need to be this big. I mean, I needed some funding, right, to get, like, some stickers and supplies and some things that we used. You don't need any funding. The first year that I did it, I was like I discovered it, and I was like, "Oh, I think I would like to do that next month." I had no money for it. I didn't know what I was doing. It does not need to be something big. If you are thinking about protecting our planet and you can pick, I mean, I always try to tie things into the curriculum,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like, does that work with a conservation unit? Do you have an environmental piece that you could tie in?
Mm-hmm.
Do you do something with nonfiction or like Cyber Smackdown? Could you incorporate something in what you are already doing that
Mm-hmm.
becomes like, it could be something very small, like, let's read this book tied into protecting our planet. Here's a read aloud, and we're going to spend a week creating something, drawing something. It doesn't have to be big. And I mean, people did beautiful things for Unique and United. There were people who danced. There were people who did, made music. And
Hmm.
it was wonderful because I'm watching these middle and high schoolers create. But I also did this at the pre-K level. Like we
Mm-hmm.
decorated little cutout, think like gingerbread people, and hung them in the hallway holding hands. Like it, we celebrate, you can celebrate from pre-K to 12, but it doesn't have to be a massive giant project. It could just be something very small. Here's a read aloud. Here's something that we created. You take pictures of it, you upload it, and your students have participated in the program. It does not have to be a massive unit.
I love that it gives you that scalability. Like it gives you that option to be small and kind of get a feel for it. And then if you want, build it out like you have and really build it into a multi-piece project that's really going to engage the students in so many different ways, like both mentally and physically, like giving them different options and opportunities to interact with each other and the materials that you're creating. So, boy.
My elementary kids spent 5 weeks
Okay.
on this project, but my early childhood classes, they spent 2.
Okay. Love that. Yeah. So yeah, why not
And remember,
make it?
elementary was only supposed to be 4, and then whoops, we needed which that's a chunk of time. That's a lot of time invested on that unit.
Yeah.
It was bigger than I anticipated that it would be, but it's what it needed to be. We needed that gallery walk. We needed that conclusion. We needed it. It felt just right the way we did it.
Yeah.
And
I
that
think that was
energy never dissipated. They were invested all the way to the end.
That's awesome. I mean, that's time well spent. When they are invested and engaged, that's
Mhm.
what we want. So absolutely it was worth that extra time.
But my
Man.
recommendation, scale it to the size you need it, make it work with something you already do, and definitely use their resources because they produce some really well done materials that you don't have to recreate the wheel. You can go to Students Rebuild, and they're not up yet, but they said they'll be announcing these things in the fall. Use what's out there. Don't reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Man, this is awesome. I'm so glad you came and shared this because this got so many different ideas going in my brain now. But I think now we're going to take our 90-degree turn and go into our book break.
Book break. Swinity.
So, what kind of book do you want to bring folks to get on their reading radar?
So I read The Keeper of Lost Children by Sadiqa Johnson earlier this summer. And it's a World War II story,
Okay.
which I am fascinated by stories from World War II. But what blew my mind about this was, of all the reading that I've done about World War II, this was
Mhm.
something I knew nothing about. It was the story of the biracial children of German mothers and Black American GI fathers
Hmm.
who were abandoned to orphanages. So you had hundreds of children who were abandoned, living in these orphanages who were not wanted.
Hmm.
And the book is told by there are 3 different perspectives in there, and it's based on one of the characters in there. Ethel was inspired by this woman who discovered these children. She herself could not have children. Her and her husband in real life ended up adopting 12 of them,
Hmm.
but she made it her life's work to find homes for these biracial orphans. And I was just blown away because, I mean, the writing was beautiful, the story was phenomenal, but I just was blown away because I'm like, I thought I knew a lot about some of the other stories of World War II that we, don't typically hear. I've
Hmm.
done some reading and I knew nothing
I'd
about
never
this.
heard of this before. Yeah.
No.
So
So it blew me away.
this is fiction based on fact, or this is
Historical
nonfiction?
fiction.
Okay.
Historical fiction, which of course then I loved, then hearing interviews with the author afterwards and, digging into, wow, but all these were based on, this main character, Ethel, who saved who found homes for over 500 orphans.
Wow.
That was based on, so, it happens in the book, but it was based on a real life individual.
Man, that is
Yeah.
fascinating. That is not something that it was even remotely on my radar. Huh.
No,
Wow.
I had no idea.
Interesting. All right. Great. Love a good World War II tie-in, because that's always, that's going to be a perpetually popular genre and field. But whenever we can learn something new from it, that's awesome. Man,
Mhm.
so awesome lesson, awesome book. So much good stuff that you have brought. Thank you so much. And I've got to say, I saw your Students Rebuild on Bluesky because you post so much great stuff on Bluesky. So that is definitely a place people should be following you. Is there any place else that they might want to catch you online?
No, that's where I pretty much live my library life, is on Bluesky.
Yeah. And great stuff, folks. You don't want to miss it. So many posts, so many great ideas. Definitely, if you're not already following Wendy there, make sure you go out, get on her trail, because amazing stuff, amazing person, amazing school librarian. So glad you could come back. Thank you so much for coming in. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the next time we get to chat, because it's always a good time and you always bring awesome stuff to the table. So thank you.
Thanks, Steve. It's always great having a conversation with you.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the SLLN podcast. Be sure to check out the show notes for the episode. They feature links to resources shared by our guest, as well as ways to keep in touch with them, and links to the book break titles. I'd love to hear from you. If you have feedback, a comment, an idea, a question, or something you want to share, you can email drtlovesbooks@gmail.com. That's drtlovesbooks@gmail.com. Know a librarian with something we could learn from? Let us know. Until next time, be good, be safe, and be well.